There are moments in history when a single mind glimpses the machinery of the universe and dares to touch it. For most, such visions remain dreams. For one man, they became an obsession. In the pantheon of human genius, certain names echo across generations: Einstein, Newton, Da Vinci. But one stands apart, a man whose brilliance burned too brightly for the world that surrounded him. His name was Nikola Tesla, inventor, visionary, dreamer. He saw a future of boundless energy, of wireless power, of light drawn from the air itself. And he spent his life trying to build it with his bare hands. The light that fills our cities, the current that drives our world, the invisible signals that bind our planet together, all bear the fingerprints of a solitary genius who died penniless, forgotten in a New York hotel room. For decades, his name lay buried, overshadowed by rivals, dismissed by magnates, dismissed by history itself. But the future has a way of vindicating its prophets. And today, we live inside the dream Nikola Tesla once dared to imagine. This is not merely the story of invention. It is the story of imagination against industry, of purity against pragmatism, of a mind that saw the invisible and tried to give it form. It is the story of a war for the soul of modern power, of lightning tamed and unleashed, of triumph and tragedy. The future, as Tesla knew, begins with a single spark. In the pantheon of human genius, certain names echo across generations, their contributions so fundamental that we cannot imagine our world without them. Yet among these luminaries stands a figure whose brilliance was matched only by his tragedy, whose vision was so far ahead of his time that the world he dreamed of would not materialize until long after his death. This is the story of Nikola Tesla. Chapter 1. Lightning Child. In July the 9th, 1856, it's the village of Smiljan, a remote outpost in the Croatian region of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, sleeps beneath a vast summer sky. The mountains rise like silent sentinels around the small collection of wooden houses and the Orthodox church where Nikola Tesla is about to give birth to her fourth child. But on this night, nature itself seems to participate in the arrival. As midnight approaches, storm clouds gather with unusual speed, and the air crackles with electric potential. The storm breaks precisely at midnight. Lightning splits the sky in brilliant, branching patterns, nature's own electrical diagram, though no one watching could read its message. In that moment of illumination, between one thunderclap and the next, Nikola Tesla draws his first breath. The midwife, a superstitious woman steeped in old country folklore, crosses herself and whispers urgently, "This child will be a child of darkness, born in a storm." Nikola Tesla, exhausted but resolute, her hands already calloused from a lifetime of invention and practical problem-solving, looks down at her newborn son. "No," she says firmly, "he will be a child of light." It is a prophetic exchange. The boy born in that lightning-illuminated moment will spend his entire life wrestling with electricity, taming it, shaping it, trying to give its power freely to all humanity. The darkness and the light, the storm and the calm. These dualities will define not just his birth, but his entire existence. Smiljan itself offers little promise for a future genius. It is a place where time moves slowly, where generations follow the same patterns, tending livestock, working the land, observing religious traditions. The Tesla family occupies a modest position in this world. Nikola's father, Milutin Tesla, serves as an Orthodox priest, a man of letters and learning in a region where such things are rare. He is stern, traditional, and absolutely certain that his brilliant son should follow him into the priesthood. But it is Nikola's mother who will prove the greater influence. Nikola Tesla, born Nikola Mandic, is an extraordinary woman trapped in ordinary circumstances. She never learns to read or write. Her failing eyesight makes it impossible, yet her mind works with mechanical precision. She invents tools for the home, improved looms, kitchen implements, devices to make the endless work of rural life more efficient. Young Nikola watches his mother's hands as she works, seeing not just the physical objects she creates, but the invisible process of invention itself, the problem identified, the solution imagined, the materials shaped to match the vision. The boy is peculiar from the start. His older brother Dane is the family star, handsome and outgoing, seemingly destined for greatness. But when Nikola is 5 years old, tragedy strikes. Dane dies in a mysterious accident, thrown from a horse, though Nikola will later hint at darker possibilities, suggesting in his fragmented reminiscences that he might have inadvertently caused his brother's death. The details remain forever unclear, buried beneath layers of guilt and Victorian reticence. What is certain is that Dane's death casts a long shadow over the family, and young Nikola grows up in the ghost of his brother's unrealized potential. Chapter 2. A mind unlike others. From early childhood, Nikola experiences the world differently. He suffers from what he will later describe as peculiar visions, intense, involuntary images that appear before his eyes with photographic clarity. Bright flashes of light erupt in his field of vision, often triggered by particular words or ideas, followed by complete mental pictures of objects, places, even entire machines. These are not vague daydreams or flights of fancy. They are crisp, detailed, three-dimensional images that he can examine from every angle, as real to him as physical objects would be to anyone else. The condition terrifies him at first. He cannot control when these visions appear, and they often intrude on normal life with jarring intensity. A word spoken at the dinner table might suddenly conjure a complete visual scene that blocks out the real world. The young boy struggles to distinguish between the internal and external, between what he sees with his eyes and what his mind projects before them. But gradually, through sheer force of will and native genius, Tesla learns not just to manage these visions, but to harness them. He discovers that he can summon images deliberately, that he can construct machines entirely in his imagination, and then test them, refine them, even identify design flaws, all without touching a physical tool or drawing a single line on paper. It is a capability so unusual that he will later describe it with pride, claiming that his mental machines work with such precision that after running them for weeks in his imagination, they show the same wear patterns as physical devices. This extraordinary form of visualization becomes Tesla's primary method of invention. Where other inventors sketch, prototype, and test, Tesla constructs complete working models in the laboratory of his mind. It gives him an almost supernatural ability to see solutions that elude more conventional thinkers, but it also contributes to his growing isolation. How can he explain to others that the machines he describes with such confidence have never physically existed? That they are as real to him as the chairs they sit upon but remain invisible to everyone else? His education begins in the village school, but his mind quickly outpaces the simple curriculum. He devours books from his father's library, teaching himself languages with remarkable facility. By adolescence, he is fluent in Serbian, German, French, Italian, and English, and can read Latin and Greek. But it is mathematics and physics that truly capture his imagination. He discovers that he can perform complex calculations in his head with such speed that his teachers suspect him of cheating. When asked to show his work, he struggles to explain. The answers simply appear to him, fully formed, the intermediate steps unnecessary or unconscious. Chapter 3. First Sparks. At age 12, Tesla encounters his first real machine, a small water wheel that some boys have constructed in a stream near the village. It is a crude thing, barely functional, but watching the water turn the wheel, Tesla experiences a revelation. Here is nature's force, the flowing water, being transformed into mechanical motion. The principle is simple, but to young Nikola, it opens a vast landscape of possibility. What else might be transformed? What other forces wait to be harnessed? He becomes obsessed with the idea of perpetual motion, spending countless hours sketching impossible devices in secret. chasing the same phantom that has lured countless dreamers before him. His father, discovering these drawings, worries that the boy is wasting his time on frivolous pursuits. But Tesla cannot stop. The puzzle has seized him. Later, much later, he will abandon the quest for perpetual motion, recognizing its impossibility. But the hours spent chasing it teach him to think about energy, transformation, and the fundamental laws of physics. At age 14, disaster strikes again. Nikola contracts cholera and spends 9 months in bed, often at death's door. The family believes he will not survive. In his fevered delirium, the strange visions intensify, and he experiences vivid, almost hallucinatory episodes. But it is during his recovery, still weak and bedridden, that his father makes him a promise that will change everything. Desperate to give his dying son something to live for, Warden Tesla tells Nikola that if he survives, he can study engineering instead of entering the priesthood. It is the lifeline Tesla needs. He clings to the promise through the long recovery, and when his strength finally returns, his purpose is clear. He will be an engineer. He will work with machines and electricity and all of the mysterious forces that animate the modern world. His father, true to his word despite his own disappointment, makes the necessary arrangements. But first, there is the matter of military service. To avoid conscription into the Austro-Hungarian army, a fate that would consume years of his life, Tesla flees into the mountains. He spends nearly a year hiding in the wilderness, living rough, reading voraciously from books he has carried with him. It is a strange, solitary time, but also formative. Alone with his thoughts and his books, his mind ranging freely across mathematics, physics, and philosophy, Tesla begins to develop the mental discipline that will serve him throughout his life. When he finally emerges, the danger of conscription has passed, and the way is clear. In 1875, at age 19, Nikola Tesla enrolls at the Austrian Polytechnic in Graz. He has escaped the village. He has escaped the priesthood. He has escaped the army. Now finally, he can pursue the visions that have haunted him since childhood. He has no way of knowing that he is about to encounter the problem that will define the rest of his life. A problem demonstrated by a professor in a routine classroom lecture. A problem that the professor himself declares impossible to solve. The obsession that will change the world is about to begin. Chapter 4. The Impossible Problem. The Austrian Polytechnic in Graz is a revelation. For the first time in his life, Tesla is surrounded by people who speak the language of science and mathematics, who understand the forces and principles that fascinate him. The buildings house laboratories filled with equipment, classrooms where the latest discoveries are discussed, libraries stacked with technical journals and books. It is everything the boy from Smelgen has dreamed of. Tesla attacks his studies with almost manic intensity. He wakes at 3 in the morning and works until 11 at night, 7 days a week. He allows himself no recreation, no social life, no distractions of any kind. His fellow students regard him with a mixture of awe and concern. The professors notice him immediately. Here is a mind of unusual power, capable of performing complex integrals without paper, able to speak fluently on subjects far beyond the basic curriculum. But it is in Professor Jakob Puschel's class that Tesla's future is decided. Professor Puschel is demonstrating a new Graham dynamo, a machine recently arrived from Paris. The dynamo is a modern marvel. It can generate direct current electricity, and with some modifications, it can also work as a motor, running on the same DC power it produces. But there is a problem, visible even in the demonstration. The motor requires a commutator, a mechanical switch that reverses the current direction as the motor spins. The commutator uses brushes that rub against rotating contacts, and as the motor runs, these brushes spark violently, throwing off showers of light and heat. Tesla, watching the demonstration with intense focus, sees the inefficiency immediately. The sparks represent wasted energy. The brushes and commutator are points of mechanical failure, parts that will wear out and need replacement. There must be a better way. Unable to contain himself, Tesla raises his hand, and suggests to Professor Puschel that the motor could be redesigned to run on alternating current, a current that switches direction on its own, eliminating the need for a mechanical commutator entirely. Professor Puschel's response is withering. He ridicules the suggestion in front of the entire class. Such a motor is impossible, he declares. It would require a rotating magnetic field, which cannot be created. The idea violates fundamental principles. Mr. Tesla may accomplish great things, the professor announces with acid condescension, but he certainly will never do this. It would be equivalent to converting a steadily pulling force like gravity into a rotary effort. It is a perpetual motion scheme, an impossible idea. For most students, such a public humiliation would end the matter. But Tesla is not most students. The professor's dismissal has the opposite of its intended effect. Instead of abandoning the idea, Tesla becomes consumed by it. An alternating current motor, a motor with no brushes, no commutator, no sparks. It must be possible. The conviction settles into his mind with absolute certainty. Somewhere in the laws of physics, somewhere in the mathematics of electromagnetism, the solution exists. He simply has to find it. The problem begins to haunt him. He thinks about it constantly, approaching it from every conceivable angle. He fills notebooks with calculations and diagrams. He constructs mental models of rotating fields and tests them against his understanding of electromagnetic theory. But the solution eludes him. The more he thinks about it, the more tangled and complex it becomes. His intense study schedule, already punishing, becomes completely unsustainable. By his third year, exhausted and frustrated, Tesla abandons his studies without completing his degree. He has learned everything the Polytechnic can teach him about the problem, but the problem remains unsolved. Chapter 5. The Wandering Years. What follows is a period of uncertainty and drift. Tesla briefly attends lectures at the Charles Ferdinand University in Prague, but his heart isn't in it. His mind remains fixed on the impossible motor, the problem that Professor Puschel declared could never be solved. Without the structure of formal education, Tesla finds himself adrift. He takes a job with the Central Telegraph Office in Budapest, recently opened as part of the expanding telegraph network connecting the cities of the empire. The work is undemanding, leaving his mind free to wrestle with the AC motor problem. But the obsession is taking a toll. Tesla begins experiencing strange symptoms, heightened sensitivity to sounds and light, episodes where his pulse races uncontrollably, mysterious pains and ailments that no doctor can diagnose. His friends worry that he is suffering a nervous breakdown, that his intense mental exertion has damaged something essential. Then, in February 1882, everything changes. Tesla is walking through the city park in Budapest with his friend Antal Szigeti, taking the evening air as the sun sets behind the buildings. He is reciting Goethe's Faust from memory, one of his favorite poems. He reaches the passage where Faust watches the sun setting and wishes for wings to follow it. The glow retreats, done is the day of toil. It yonder hastes, new fields of life exploring. Ah, that no wing can lift me from the soil. Upon its track to follow, follow soaring. And in that moment, as the words leave his lips and the dying light slants golden across the park, the answer comes. It arrives not gradually, not through laborious calculation, but in a single, blinding flash of insight. Tesla stops dead in his tracks. His eyes go distant. Szigeti, now alarmed, asks Tesla, "What is wrong?" But Tesla doesn't answer. He is seeing something invisible to everyone else. A complete, perfect solution to the problem that has tormented him for years. "Watch me!" Tesla suddenly shouts, grabbing a stick from the ground. "Watch me reverse it." He begins sketching frantically in the dirt of the park path. Not the halting sketches of someone working through an idea, but rapid, confident strokes that lay out a complete design. A rotating magnetic field. Two or more alternating currents, out of phase with each other, creating magnetic poles that move around the circumference of the motor. The rotor doesn't need to be connected to anything. No brushes, no commutator, no sparks. It simply sits in the center of this rotating field and is dragged along by it, like a stick caught in a whirlpool. It is brilliant. It is elegant. It is perfect. And it has appeared to Tesla not as the conclusion of a logical process, but as a complete vision, as real and solid as any physical object. In his mind's eye, he can see the motor running. He can see the magnetic field rotating. He can identify every component, calculate every specification. The 6 years of obsession have crystallized in an instant into a fully realized invention. But it exists only in his mind. He has no laboratory, no equipment, no funding to build a prototype. He is a telegraph clerk in Budapest, armed with nothing but a stick and a patch of disturbed earth that already shows the boot prints of passers-by. The greatest invention of the electrical age has just been born, and there is no one to see it, no one who can understand what has just happened, except the solitary genius sketching in the dirt as twilight deepens into night. Chapter 6. The Paris Interlude. Tesla knows what he has. He has solved the impossible problem. Now he needs someone with the resources and vision to build it. That someone, he hopes, will be the Continental Edison Company in Paris. Edison's name is already famous throughout Europe. His electric lighting systems are being installed in cities across the continent, and the Paris branch of his company is actively recruiting talented engineers. In 1882, Tesla makes his way to Paris and secures a position with Edison's company. It is not the creative role he had hoped for. He is assigned to troubleshooting and repair work on Edison's direct current power stations and lighting systems throughout France and Germany. But Tesla performs brilliantly. He has an uncanny ability to diagnose problems that baffle other engineers, and his solutions are both innovative and effective. His supervisors notice, and Tesla gradually rises through the company ranks. He tries to interest them in his AC motor design, but finds no receptive audience. The Continental Edison Company is committed to direct current. It is Edison's system, the foundation of all their installations. An alternating current motor, however elegant, represents a fundamental threat to their entire business model. They are polite, but dismissive. Perhaps in America, they suggest. Perhaps if Tesla meets Edison himself, the great inventor will see the potential. Tesla's most significant achievement during his Paris years comes when the company sends him to Strasbourg to repair a damaged lighting plant at the new railway station. There has been an expensive mishap during the opening ceremony attended by the elderly Emperor William I. A short circuit caused a spectacular explosion that destroyed part of the station wall. The situation is delicate. The German government is furious, threatening to cancel their contracts with Edison's company. They need someone who can fix not just the technical problem, but also the political disaster. Tesla arrives in Strasbourg and quickly identifies the fault in the system design. He implements repairs and improvements that make the system more robust. But more importantly, he uses the opportunity to finally build a working model of his AC motor. Using spare materials and parts scrounged from the repair project, working in his spare time, Tesla constructs the first physical manifestation of the machine that has lived in his mind for years. It works perfectly. The motor spins smoothly with no brushes, no commutator, no sparks, just the quiet hum of rotating magnetic fields. Tesla demonstrates it to several prominent Strasbourg citizens, hoping to secure financial backing to develop it further. They are impressed, but cautious. Ultimately, no investment materializes. Europe, it seems, is not ready for his vision. But the demonstration confirms what Tesla has known since that moment in the Budapest park. The AC motor is not just theoretically possible, but practically viable. It is the future of electric power. Now he just needs to find someone who can see what he sees, someone willing to bet on that future. His supervisors, perhaps feeling guilty that he has received so little recognition for his contributions, encourage him to go to America. Edison himself is there, building his empire from New York City. The letter of recommendation they provide is effusive. "I know two great men, and you are one of them. The other is this young man." In June 1884, at age 28, Nikola Tesla boards a steamship bound for New York. He carries a few articles of clothing, a book of his own poetry, some calculations and drawings related to his AC motor, and that precious letter of recommendation. He also carries in his mind the complete design for a technology that will reshape the world, if only he can find someone willing to listen. The Atlantic crossing is rough. Tesla, never a good traveler, spends much of it seasick and miserable. Worse, his luggage is stolen somewhere during the journey. When he finally steps onto the dock in New York City, he has literally nothing but the clothes on his back, 4 cents in his pocket, and that letter to Thomas Edison. He has arrived in America. The greatest conflict of his life is about to begin. Chapter 7. The Wizard of Menlo Park. To understand what happens when Tesla meets Edison, one must first understand the America of 1884, and more importantly, the man who has become its greatest industrial celebrity. Thomas Alva Edison is 47 years old, at the absolute height of his powers and fame. He is known as the Wizard of Menlo Park, the inventor who has given America the phonograph, improved the telephone, perfected the incandescent light bulb, and built the first electric power distribution systems. He is wealthy, famous, and supremely confident in his methods and his vision. Edison's approach to invention is fundamentally practical. He is a tinkerer and a businessman, not a theorist. His laboratory at Menlo Park operates on the principle of systematic trial and error. When he wants to find the best filament for his light bulbs, he tests thousands of materials until he finds one that works. When asked about his many failures, he famously replies that he has not failed. He has merely found 10,000 ways that do not work. It is an approach that has served him remarkably well, generating patents by the dozens and practical devices that can be manufactured and sold. His electric lighting system is built entirely on direct current. DC electricity flows in one direction, from generator to device, like water through a pipe. It is simple, stable, and relatively safe at the low voltages Edison uses. He has installed his system in buildings throughout New York City, with central power stations distributing electricity through underground cables to homes and businesses. It is a marvel of modern technology, a glimpse of the electrified future. But DC has a fundamental limitation, one that Edison is acutely aware of but has no solution for. It cannot travel far. The resistance of the copper wires dissipates the electrical energy as heat, and the voltage drops rapidly with distance. Edison's power stations can effectively serve only customers within about 1 mile. To electrify a city requires building multiple power stations, each with its own generator, coal supply, and maintenance crew. It is expensive and inefficient, but it is the best system available. It is Edison's system, and he has built an empire upon it. Into this empire walks Nikola Tesla with 4 cents and a letter of introduction. Chapter 8. The Meeting. The man who opens the letter is not the avuncular inventor of popular imagination. Edison in 1884 is exhausted. His first wife has recently died, leaving him with 3 children to care for. His business is expanding so rapidly that he can barely keep pace with the demands. He works grueling hours subsisting on catnaps taken on laboratory benches, driving his employees with the same relentless intensity he applies to himself. He is brilliant, ruthless, and deeply pragmatic. He has no patience for theoretical speculation or elegant mathematics. What matters is what works, what sells, what can be manufactured at scale. Tesla must seem an exotic specimen, a tall, thin European with impeccable manners, speaking formal English with a strong accent, carrying himself with an aristocratic bearing that sits oddly on someone arriving with nothing. But the letter of recommendation is from Charles Batchelor, Edison's trusted manager in Paris, and Batchelor's judgment is usually sound. Edison decides to give the young man a chance. The difference in their personalities is immediately apparent. Edison is rough-hewn, casual, dressed in rumpled work clothes, stained with chemicals. He is an American through and through, impatient with ceremony, focused entirely on practical results. Tesla is formal, precise, almost courtly in his manners. He dresses carefully despite his poverty, speaks in complete paragraphs, and has the habit of a European intellectual. Where Edison thinks in terms of what can be built and sold today, Tesla thinks in terms of elegant solutions to fundamental problems. Despite these differences, or perhaps because Edison is desperate for talented help, Tesla is hired. His first assignment is to improve the electrical generators powering Edison's DC system. They are inefficient, prone to breakdowns, and Edison is losing money on warranty repairs. He tells Tesla that if he can redesign the generators to be more reliable and efficient, there will be a substantial bonus. $50,000, an enormous sum. Tesla throws himself into the work with characteristic intensity. He takes over the project completely, working 18-hour days, rarely sleeping, subsisting on irregular meals. Over the next several months, he redesigns 24 different types of standard Edison machines, making them more efficient, more reliable, and more powerful. The improvements are substantial, exactly what Edison needs to make his system more competitive and profitable. When the work is complete, Tesla goes to Edison and asks for the promised $50,000. Edison laughs. "Tesla," he says, "you don't understand our American humor." It is not humor. It is betrayal. Tesla resigns immediately, furious and disillusioned. The great Thomas Edison, the wizard of Menlo Park, has revealed himself to be just another businessman, willing to exploit talent without compensation. The relationship, which might have changed the course of technological history had it flourished, ends in acrimony. But the damage goes deeper than one broken promise. Tesla has spent months improving Edison's DC system, when he should have been developing his AC motor. He has wasted precious time making a flawed system work better, instead of building the superior system he carries in his mind. It is a bitter lesson in the realities of American business. Chapter 9. The Depths. What follows are the darkest months of Tesla's life. Without Edison's backing or even a reference, he cannot find engineering work. He has no money, no connections, no prospects. The proud European intellectual, the man who has solved one of the fundamental problems of electrical engineering, finds himself digging ditches for the Edison company. The ultimate insult, earning $2 a day as a common laborer. He digs ditches along the streets of New York, installing underground cables for the very DC system he knows to be inferior. His fellow laborers have no idea that the tall, gaunt man working beside them is one of the great minds of the age. Tesla says nothing. He digs, collects his $2, and survives. At night, in whatever miserable lodging he can afford, Tesla thinks about his AC motor. It still exists, perfect and complete, in his mind. The months of hardship have not diminished it, have not revealed any flaws in the design. If anything, working with Edison's DC system has only confirmed the superiority of alternating current. But a design that exists only in one man's mind might as well not exist at all. Without resources to build it, without a champion to promote it, the AC motor is just another dream. He considers returning to Europe. At least there he has a reputation, contacts, opportunities. But something in Tesla's nature will not allow retreat. He has come to America because it is the land of innovation, where great ideas can find backing and come to fruition. He will not leave until he has succeeded, or utterly failed. In April 1887, after nearly 2 years of struggle, Tesla's fortune finally begins to turn. The superintendent of the Western Union Telegraph Company, A.K. Brown, learns of Tesla's situation through mutual acquaintances. Brown has heard about Tesla's work in Paris, and his reputation as a brilliant engineer. More importantly, Brown has heard about the AC motor, and unlike Edison's people, he is intrigued rather than dismissive. Brown arranges a meeting. Tesla, no longer the polished continental Edison engineer, but a man worn down by manual labor and poverty, nevertheless presents his ideas with the same confidence and precision he had in better days. He describes the rotating magnetic field, the polyphase system, the motor with no brushes or commutator. He sketches diagrams, performs calculations, answers every technical question with complete assurance. Brown is convinced. He offers to provide funding to establish Tesla's own laboratory and to develop the AC system for commercial use. In return, Brown will take a share of any profits or patent royalties. It is not the most generous arrangement, but Tesla is in no position to negotiate. He accepts immediately. The Tesla Electric Company is born. Finally, after years of frustration, Tesla has the resources to bring his vision into physical reality. The motor that has existed in his mind since that sunset in Budapest, that has survived his poverty and humiliation, will finally be built. The invisible has begun its journey toward visibility. The future is about to arrive. Chapter 10. The Patent. The laboratory that A.K. Brown provides is modest but adequate. A small space on Liberty Street in Manhattan, equipped with workbenches, basic tools, and the electrical equipment necessary to construct and test Tesla's designs. For Tesla, after years of having nothing but his imagination, it might as well be paradise. He works with furious concentration, translating the mental models he has refined over 6 years into physical reality. It is a process that would normally take multiple iterations. Design, build, test, identify problems, redesign. But Tesla's mental prototypes have already gone through countless iterations. When he builds the physical motors, they work almost exactly as he had visualized them. The rotating magnetic field behaves precisely as his calculations predicted. The motor spins smoothly, quietly, efficiently. Everything a direct current motor is not. By October 1887, Tesla has developed a complete system. Motors of various types, generators, transformers, transmission equipment, everything necessary for a complete alternating current power system. On October 12, he files his first major patent applications. Over the following months, he files dozens more, creating a comprehensive patent portfolio that covers every aspect of AC power generation, transmission, and utilization. The patents are remarkable not just for their scope, but for their fundamental innovation. Tesla has invented not just a motor, but an entire new approach to electrical power. His polyphase system uses multiple alternating currents out of phase with each other, creating smooth, continuous rotation. His transformers can step voltage up for efficient long-distance transmission, then step it back down for safe use. His whole system is more efficient, more versatile, and more scalable than anything Edison has built. In May 1888, Tesla gets his opportunity to announce his achievement to the scientific world. He is invited to lecture at the American Institute of Electrical Engineers at Columbia College. It is a prestigious venue, attended by the leading electrical engineers and scientists in America. Tesla, who has been a nobody, a ditch digger, now stands before them as the inventor of a revolutionary new technology. His lecture, A New System of Alternate Current Motors and Transformers, is a masterpiece of clear scientific communication. He explains the principle of the rotating magnetic field, demonstrates working models of his motors, and presents the complete specifications for a practical AC power system. The audience is stunned. Here, fully formed and documented, is the solution to problems that have plagued electrical engineers for years. Among the audience members is one whose attention Tesla has particularly captured: George Westinghouse. Chapter 11. Westinghouse. George Westinghouse is a very different man from Thomas Edison. Like Edison, he is an inventor and industrialist, but his approach and temperament are nearly opposite. Westinghouse made his fortune on railroad air brakes and natural gas distribution systems. He understands complex systems, thinks in terms of infrastructure and long-term development, and has the patience for projects that may take years to mature. Where Edison is intuitive and empirical, Westinghouse is methodical and analytical. Where Edison is a showman, Westinghouse is a businessman. Most importantly, Westinghouse is already committed to alternating current. He has been developing his own AC lighting systems, recognizing the fundamental advantage of being able to transmit power over long distances. But he lacks an efficient AC motor. The missing piece that would make AC competitive, not just for lighting, but for the industrial applications that consume the most power. Tesla's demonstration is exactly what Westinghouse has been waiting for. Within days of the lecture, Westinghouse representatives contact Tesla with an offer. Westinghouse will purchase the rights to Tesla's polyphase patents. The terms are generous: $60,000 in cash, plus royalties on every AC horsepower sold. If the technology succeeds on the scale Tesla envisions, those royalties could make him one of the wealthiest men in America. Tesla accepts. Finally, his invention has found a champion with the resources and commitment to bring it to market. The Tesla polyphase system becomes the Westinghouse AC system. Tesla himself is hired as a consultant, working with Westinghouse engineers to adapt the designs for mass production. It is everything Tesla has worked toward since that moment in the Budapest Park. But if Tesla and Westinghouse are celebrating their partnership, Edison is watching with growing alarm. The threat is existential. If AC becomes the standard for electrical power, Edison's entire DC empire, the power stations, the patents, the installed infrastructure, becomes obsolete overnight. Edison has too much invested, too much at stake, to let that happen without a fight. The war of currents is about to begin in earnest. And Edison, for all his genius, is about to reveal the lengths to which he will go to protect his commercial interests. Chapter 12. The Campaign of Fear. Edison's strategy is simple: make the public terrified of alternating current. He launches a propaganda campaign that would be considered astoundingly unethical even by the rough standards of 19th century business competition. If he cannot win on technical merits, he will win by manipulating public fear. The campaign begins with pamphlets and newspaper articles warning of AC's dangers. Edison's people write under pseudonyms, claiming to be concerned citizens or independent experts. They spread stories of AC electrical accidents, often exaggerated or entirely fabricated. They warn that AC power lines will kill children, burn down houses, electrocute unwary workers. The message is consistent. Direct current is safe, controllable, trustworthy. Alternating current is dangerous, unpredictable, deadly. But Edison doesn't stop with words. He begins conducting public demonstrations of AC's lethality. His employees stage elaborate shows where they use AC electricity to kill animals. First small creatures like dogs and cats, purchased from local pounds, then larger ones. The demonstrations are horrific spectacles. Animals are placed on metal plates connected to AC generators and electrocuted while crowds watch. Edison's people carefully explain that this is Westinghouse's current, Tesla system, the deadly force that companies are trying to install in homes and businesses. The campaign reaches its grotesque peak with the public electrocution of an elephant named Topsy at Coney Island's Luna Park. The elephant, deemed dangerous after killing 3 men, is sentenced to death, and Edison sees an opportunity. He films the execution, using Westinghouse AC current to kill the animal before a crowd of thousands. The film is distributed widely, a piece of propaganda masquerading as documentary footage. The message is clear. This is what alternating current can do. But Edison's most insidious contribution to the war comes in his association with the electric chair. New York State, searching for a more humane method of execution than hanging, turns to electricity. Edison, seeing another opportunity to demonize AC, recommends that the electric chair use Westinghouse's alternating current. He even coins a new verb for the process. To Westinghouse someone is to execute them with AC electricity. Harold P. Brown, an electrical engineer working closely with Edison, becomes the public face of this effort. He conducts demonstrations before state officials, electrocuting animals with AC, while showing that DC requires much higher voltages to achieve the same lethal effect. The demonstrations are scientifically dubious. Brown manipulates voltages and conditions to achieve his desired results, but they are effective theater. On August 6, 1890, William Kemmler becomes the first person executed by electric chair, killed by Westinghouse AC current at Auburn Prison in New York. The execution is botched. Kemmler survives the first jolt and must be electrocuted a second time, the smell of burning flesh filling the chamber. It is gruesome, horrifying, and exactly what Edison wants. Newspapers across the country report on the Westinghouse execution. The association between AC and death is seared into public consciousness. Westinghouse is furious. He has tried to fight back through legal means, even attempting to prevent the sale of his generators to the state for execution purposes. But the damage is done. Edison has succeeded in making alternating current synonymous with electrocution in the public mind. Chapter 13. The Chicago Victory. But propaganda, however skillful, cannot overcome fundamental physics. The simple truth is that AC is superior for electrical distribution, and Edison's campaign of fear cannot change that reality. The decisive battle comes in 1893, when the organizers of the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago, a massive fair celebrating the 400th anniversary of Columbus's voyage, put out bids for the electrical contract. The fair will be enormous, covering more than 600 acres, featuring dozens of grand buildings and pavilions from nations around the world. It will showcase the latest achievements in art, culture, and technology. The organizers want it to be a vision of the modern future, and central to that vision is electric lighting. They want the fair to be illuminated by thousands of lights, a demonstration of electricity's power to transform the night into day. 2 bids come in. Edison's General Electric Company proposes a DC system at a cost of $1.80 million. Westinghouse, using Tesla's AC system, bids $399,000, less than a quarter of Edison's price. The difference is not just a matter of competitive bidding. It reflects the fundamental economics of the two systems. AC can be transmitted efficiently over long distances, meaning fewer power stations and less copper wire. DC cannot, requiring either a massive central generator or multiple smaller ones, all consuming coal and requiring maintenance. The organizers, whatever their concerns about AC's reputation, cannot ignore a price difference of that magnitude. Westinghouse wins the contract. Edison's company, desperate not to lose entirely, challenges Westinghouse's patents on the light bulb design, forcing Westinghouse to develop a new bulb specifically for the fair. But these are delaying tactics. The fundamental decision has been made. The World's Fair will run on Tesla's alternating current. The fair opens on May 1, 1893. President Grover Cleveland inaugurates it by pressing a telegraph key that sends a signal to the machinery hall, where Tesla's AC generators roar to life. Instantly, 100,000 incandescent lamps blaze across the fairgrounds. The effect is magical, transforming the White City, as the fair's neoclassical buildings are called, into a palace of light. Visitors from around the world, many seeing electric lighting for the first time, stand in amazed silence. At the Electricity Building, Westinghouse has constructed a massive display showcasing the AC system. Tesla himself is often present, demonstrating his motors and explaining the principles of alternating current to fascinated crowds. He performs demonstrations that seem almost supernatural, holding fluorescent tubes that light up in his hands without any visible connection, passing high voltage, high-frequency AC current through his own body without harm, creating artificial lightning with his Tesla Coil. These demonstrations serve a crucial purpose beyond entertainment. They show that AC electricity, handled properly, is not the monster Edison has portrayed. Tesla, calm and professional, explains the difference between voltage, current, and frequency. He shows how high-frequency AC is actually safer than DC at similar voltages, how the human body responds differently to different types of electrical current. He is demystifying electricity, turning it from something to be feared into something to be understood and utilized. The fair runs for 6 months, from May to October 1893. During that time, more than 27 million people visit, an enormous number representing a significant fraction of the entire U.S. population. Almost everyone who attends sees the AC system in operation. They see it working reliably, safely, and magnificently. They see the future, and it runs on Tesla's technology. When the fair closes, the verdict is clear. The war of currents is effectively over. Westinghouse and Tesla have won. Edison's propaganda campaign has failed. Within a few years, Edison's own company will quietly abandon DC in favor of AC for long-distance power transmission. The standard that will electrify the world, that will power cities and industries and homes for the next century and beyond, will be alternating current. But the most decisive victory is still to come, and it will be won at one of nature's most spectacular sites. Chapter 14. Harnessing Niagara. Niagara Falls represents both a spectacular natural wonder and an enormous waste. Millions of gallons of water plunge over the falls every minute, representing a colossal amount of kinetic energy that simply dissipates into mist and thunder. For years, engineers and industrialists have dreamed of harnessing that power, but the technical challenges are daunting. Any power system would need to generate electricity at the falls and then transmit it to Buffalo, over 20 miles away, where it could be sold to industries and residents. 20 miles. With Edison's DC system, it is impossible. The voltage drop over that distance would be so severe that almost no usable power would reach Buffalo. The only way to make it work would be to build the factories right at the falls themselves, which presents its own problems. But with AC, with the ability to step voltage up for efficient transmission and then step it back down for use, 20 miles is manageable. The Niagara Falls Power Company, backed by some of the wealthiest financiers in America, announces a competition to design the power system. Proposals come in from around the world, various schemes using compressed air, hydraulic systems, even experimental designs involving entirely new principles. But the commission overseeing the project, which includes Lord Kelvin, one of the most respected scientists in the world, ultimately recommends Tesla's polyphase AC system. Westinghouse wins the contract. Construction begins in 1893 and takes 3 years. 3 years of drilling through solid rock, installing massive turbines, stringing power lines through the countryside, building the transformers and the switchgear that will control the system. It is an engineering project on a scale never before attempted. Tesla visits the site during construction, consulting on technical details, making adjustments to his designs to accommodate the massive scale of the installation. Each of the generators is larger than anything he has built before, capable of producing 5,000 horsepower, an almost unimaginable amount of power. If the system fails, if the generators prove unreliable or the transmission lines cannot carry the load, it will be a catastrophic and very public failure for AC technology. On November 16, 1896, the switch is finally thrown. The great turbines, driven by Niagara's plunging water, begin to spin. The generators, built to Tesla's specifications, convert that mechanical rotation into electrical current. The current flows through transformers that step the voltage up to 22,000 volts. The high-voltage electricity races through transmission lines to Buffalo, where more transformers step it back down to usable levels. And it works. It works perfectly. The lights of Buffalo glow with power from Niagara Falls, 26 miles away. Factories that had relied on local coal-fired generators switched to the clean, constant power from the falls. Within a few years, the Niagara system is providing power to cities even farther away. The age of electric power has truly begun, and it speaks with Tesla's accent. The victory at Niagara represents more than a technical achievement. It is a vindication of Tesla's vision against the assembled forces of Edison's industrial empire. It proves that a superior technology, given sufficient backing and determination, can overcome entrenched interests and fear-mongering propaganda. It establishes AC as the standard not just for America, but for the world, a standard that remains in place to this day. For Tesla, it should be a moment of unalloyed triumph. His impossible AC motor, ridiculed by Professor Peschel and dismissed by Edison, is now powering one of the modern wonders of the world. His patents are valuable. His name is known to every electrical engineer. He has achieved what he set out to do. But Tesla, characteristically, is already thinking beyond this victory. Alternating current is merely the foundation. Now he wants to build something far more radical, far more visionary. He wants to make the wires themselves obsolete. He wants to transmit power and information through the air itself, wirelessly, to any point on the planet. The world has just caught up to his first great vision. Tesla is about to leap ahead again, into territory so advanced that the world may never catch up at all. Chapter 15. The Fifth Avenue Laboratory. With the success of the AC system and the financial security it brings, Tesla establishes his own laboratory at 3335 South Fifth Avenue in Manhattan. It is here, in the mid-1890s, that Tesla enters the most productive and spectacular period of his career. The laboratory becomes a place of wonders, where the boundaries between science and magic seem to blur, where Tesla pursues ideas that range from brilliantly practical to wildly speculative. The laboratory is uniquely designed to suit Tesla's methods. Unlike Edison's Menlo Park, which resembles a factory with multiple workers pursuing simultaneous projects, Tesla's laboratory is his personal domain. He employs skilled machinists and technicians, but they work to his precise specifications. There is no experimentation by committee, no democratic brainstorming. Tesla designs everything in his mind first, tests it mentally until he is satisfied, and only then has the physical device constructed. The centerpiece of the laboratory is Tesla's largest coil, a transformer capable of generating enormous voltages at high frequencies. When operating at full power, the coil produces artificial lightning bolts that crackle and snap through the air, leap between metal spheres, and fill the room with the smell of ozone and the sound of thunder. It is a device that serves both practical research purposes and theatrical ones. Tesla understands the power of spectacle, the way a dramatic demonstration can capture imagination and attention in ways that dry technical papers cannot. He invites journalists, scientists, financiers, and celebrities to witness his demonstrations. Mark Twain visits and is photographed in the laboratory, his face illuminated by the ghostly glow of a fluorescent tube lit by wireless transmission. The electrical pioneer Sir William Crookes corresponds with Tesla about the mysterious phenomena he is investigating. J.P. Morgan, the most powerful financier in America, comes to see what this eccentric Serbian is doing with electricity. What they witness often defies their understanding. Tesla stands in the middle of the laboratory as his coils crackle with millions of volts. Lightning bolts play over his body, yet he is unharmed. He holds glass tubes that light brilliantly without any visible connection to a power source. He demonstrates motors that spin with no apparent mechanism driving them, devices that seem to violate the fundamental principles of physics as understood by conventional science. These are not tricks, though they appear magical. They are demonstrations of advanced electrical principles that Tesla understands intuitively, but that are decades ahead of formal theory. He is working with high-frequency, alternating current, with resonance effects, with wireless transmission of energy, phenomena that will not be fully explained by electromagnetic theory until well into the 20th century. Chapter 16. The Tesla Coil. Among Tesla's inventions from this period, none is more iconic or influential than the Tesla Coil. It is fundamentally a resonant transformer, a device that takes electrical input at one frequency and voltage, and outputs it at a different frequency and much higher voltage. But calling it simply a transformer is like calling a symphony simply sound. The Tesla coil operates on principles of electrical resonance that allow it to achieve voltages and frequencies impossible with conventional equipment. The design is elegant. A primary coil of a few turns of heavy wire surrounds a secondary coil of many turns of fine wire. The primary coil is energized by a capacitor discharge, creating a pulse of current. This pulse induces a current in the secondary coil, but because the two coils are tuned to resonate at the same frequency, the energy transfers with remarkable efficiency. The secondary coil, with its many turns, steps up the voltage to enormous levels, hundreds of thousands or even millions of volts. At these voltages and high frequencies, electricity behaves strangely. It prefers to travel along surfaces rather than through conductors. It leaps through air in spectacular lightning-like discharges. It can light fluorescent tubes wirelessly, simply through the electromagnetic fields it creates. Tesla uses these properties to investigate wireless transmission of energy, radio communication, and the nature of atmospheric electricity. The Tesla coil becomes not just a laboratory instrument, but an icon of mad scientist aesthetics. Its spectacular lightning discharges will appear in countless science fiction films, laboratory scenes, and popular representations of electricity. Even today, over a century later, Tesla coils are built by hobbyists and displayed at science museums, still capable of drawing crowds who watch in fascination as artificial lightning crackles between terminals. But for Tesla, the coil is not a toy or a demonstration device. It is a research tool, a way to investigate the frontiers of electrical science. He uses it to study the properties of high-frequency current, to investigate the ionization of gases, to explore the possibility of wireless power transmission. Each experiment, each observation, feeds into the larger vision that is forming in his mind. A vision of a world connected not by wires, but by the invisible web of electromagnetic radiation. Chapter 17. Radio and the Ghost of Marconi. In his Fifth Avenue laboratory, Tesla is also pioneering radio communication. By 1893, he is demonstrating wireless transmission of signals using the principles that will later be recognized as radio. He lectures on the subject, describing a complete system for wireless communication including transmitters, receivers, and tuned circuits. He files patents on radio components. He is, by any reasonable measure, inventing radio. But Tesla makes a critical mistake. He does not focus on radio as a commercial application. For him, it is simply one aspect of the larger project of wireless transmission. He is more interested in transmitting power than information, more fascinated by the possibility of broadcasting energy around the world than by sending Morse code messages between 2 points. Radio for Tesla is almost a distraction from the grander vision. This oversight will cost him dearly. In 1895, a fire destroys Tesla's laboratory, consuming years of equipment, notes, and research. It is a devastating blow, setting him back just as he is making his most important advances. While Tesla is recovering and rebuilding, a young Italian inventor named Guglielmo Marconi begins experimenting with wireless transmission. Marconi is not the theorist that Tesla is. His understanding of the physics is less sophisticated, his designs less elegant. But Marconi has two advantages. He is focused exclusively on radio communication as a practical commercial application, and he has powerful financial backers who recognize the potential for wireless transmission to revolutionize communication, especially for ships at sea. In 1897, Marconi files his first radio patents. He begins demonstrating wireless transmission over increasing distances, capturing public attention and securing lucrative contracts. The press hails him as the inventor of radio, despite Tesla's earlier work and more comprehensive understanding of the principles involved. Tesla is outraged but also somewhat dismissive. Marconi's radio, he points out, uses 17 of Tesla's patents. Marconi is building on Tesla's foundation, whether he acknowledges it or not. Tesla believes that when the legal situation is sorted out, his priority will be recognized and his patents will be upheld. He is right, but it will take decades. In 1943, the Supreme Court will finally rule that Tesla's patents have priority over Marconi's, officially recognizing Tesla as the inventor of radio. But this vindication will come just months after Tesla's death, too late to restore the fortune and recognition that should have been his during his lifetime. The Marconi situation embodies one of Tesla's great weaknesses. He is brilliant at invention, but poor at commercialization. He sees the ultimate potential of technologies, but often fails to develop the intermediate applications that could generate income and support further research. He dreams of the destination, but sometimes neglects the journey. And in the brutally competitive world of late 19th century invention, that neglect costs him dearly. Chapter 18. Colorado Springs. By 1899, Tesla feels constrained by his New York laboratory. The high voltages he is working with are causing interference with telephone lines and complaints from neighbors. The electrical power available in the city is insufficient for his larger experiments. He needs space, isolation, and abundant electricity. He needs room to build something unprecedented. He chooses Colorado Springs, a city at the base of Pikes Peak, 6,000 feet above sea level. The altitude means thinner air, which is more easily ionized, useful for his experiments with electrical discharges. The Colorado Springs Electric Company, eager for the publicity of hosting the famous inventor, offers him free electrical power. Local businessmen, hoping Tesla's presence will attract attention and investment, provide land and support. Tesla arrives in May 1899 and immediately begins construction of his experimental station. It is unlike anything Colorado Springs has ever seen. A large wooden structure topped by a 142-foot mast, supporting a copper sphere 3 feet in diameter. Inside the building is the largest Tesla coil ever constructed, capable of generating over 12 million volts. The entire structure is designed as a massive wireless transmission station, an experimental prototype for the global system Tesla envisions. The coil, when operating at full power, produces lightning bolts over 130 feet long, the longest artificial electrical discharges ever created up to that time. The thunder from these discharges can be heard 15 miles away in Cripple Creek. The electromagnetic pulses are so strong that they cause sparks to jump from waterline taps throughout Colorado Springs. Light bulbs glow spontaneously when held near the laboratory. Horses in the livery stable across the street receive shocks through their metal shoes. But Tesla is not creating these spectacular effects merely for show. He is conducting systematic experiments on wireless power transmission, on the electrical properties of the Earth, on what he calls standing waves, resonant patterns in the Earth's electrical field that he believes can be used to transmit power globally. He is also attempting to investigate atmospheric electricity, the natural electrical phenomena that occur in the upper atmosphere. One of his most intriguing claims from this period is that he receives signals that he believes originate from beyond Earth, possibly from Mars or Venus. He detects rhythmic electrical pulses that do not match any known natural phenomena or human transmission. When he announces this to the press, the reaction is mixed. Some newspapers treat it seriously, discussing the possibility of communication with other planets. Others mock him as a publicity-seeking eccentric. In retrospect, Tesla was almost certainly detecting natural radio emissions from space, phenomena that would not be systematically studied until the birth of radio astronomy decades later. But the damage to his reputation is real. The claim of extraterrestrial signals becomes one of the pieces of evidence that Tesla is losing his grip on reality, that his genius is curdling into madness. Tesla remains in Colorado Springs for 9 months, conducting over 500 experiments, filling hundreds of pages with observations and calculations. He believes he has proven that wireless power transmission is possible, that the Earth itself can be used as a conductor, that energy can be broadcast to any point on the planet using resonance effects. He has verified to his own satisfaction the fundamental principles that will guide his greatest project. In January 1900, Tesla returns to New York. He has accomplished what he set out to do in Colorado, but he's also generated new controversies and damaged his public image. The eccentric genius is becoming, in the public eye, simply eccentric. But Tesla is undeterred. He has proven the principles. Now he must build the system at full scale. He is about to attempt his most ambitious project, a project so grand, so far ahead of its time, that its failure will haunt him for the rest of his life. Chapter 19. The Grand Vision. Tesla returns from Colorado Springs with his confidence at its peak. He has proven, at least to his own satisfaction, that wireless transmission of power is possible. Now he envisions a network of towers around the world, each broadcasting power that can be received by simple receivers. No wires, no infrastructure, energy as freely available as air. It is a vision that, if realized, would revolutionize human civilization. Free energy for all, broadcast globally, eliminating the need for power lines, coal-burning stations, local generators. But the vision is even larger than power transmission. Tesla also sees these towers broadcasting information, news, messages, images, creating a global communication network. He describes a device that people could carry in their pockets that would allow them to communicate with anyone in the world, to receive news and information instantly, to be connected regardless of location. He is describing in 1900 something remarkably similar to a modern smartphone and the internet, though his technical approach is different. To realize this vision, Tesla needs money, substantial money, for what will be an enormous construction project. He needs a patron willing to invest in a technology that will take years to develop, and whose commercial potential is largely theoretical. He finds that patron in J.P. Morgan, the most powerful financier in America, a man who has built an empire on railroads and steel, who understands the value of controlling essential infrastructure. Tesla meets with Morgan in late 19 presents his proposal. He describes a worldwide wireless communication system, emphasizing the commercial potential for ship-to-shore communication, a market that Marconi is already beginning to dominate. Tesla argues that his system will be superior, capable of transmitting not just simple Morse code signals, but voice, images, and power itself. Morgan is intrigued, but cautious. He agrees to invest $150,000 in exchange for a 51% share of Tesla's wireless patents. It is a substantial sum, but not nearly enough for the global network Tesla envisions. Tesla accepts, believing that once he demonstrates the system working, additional funding will follow. It is a reasonable assumption, but one that will prove fatally flawed. Chapter 20. Wardencliff Rising. With Morgan's backing, Tesla purchases 200 acres of land at Shoreham, on Long Island, about 60 miles from Manhattan. The site is chosen for its geological properties. It sits on top of aquifers that Tesla believes will enhance the ground conductivity essential for his system. He names the facility Wardencliff, after the owner of the land, James S. Warden, who donates the property in hopes that Tesla's laboratory will attract other businesses and create a planned community. Tesla hires the renowned architect Stanford White to design the facility. Fresh from designing Madison Square Garden, creates plans for an impressive complex, a large laboratory building in Italian Renaissance style, housing machine shops, generators, and experimental equipment. But the centerpiece is the tower, a structure 187 feet tall, topped with a massive copper dome, 68 feet in diameter. The dome is designed to broadcast electromagnetic waves across vast distances, utilizing the principles Tesla developed in Colorado Springs, but at a much larger scale. Construction begins in 1901. The foundation alone is a marvel, a well shaft driven 120 feet into the bedrock, lined with steel, designed to provide a deep ground connection that Tesla believes is essential for his system. The tower rises throughout 1901 and into 1902, its distinctive mushroom shape becoming visible for miles around. Local newspapers cover the construction, speculating about the mysterious facility being built by the famous inventor. But as the tower rises, problems multiply. The construction costs far exceed Tesla's estimates. The specialized equipment he requires is expensive and time-consuming to manufacture. The technical challenges of scaling up from the Colorado Springs experiments to a full-scale transmission system prove greater than anticipated. Tesla burns through Morgan's investment faster than planned, and the tower is still not complete. Worse, the commercial landscape is changing. In December 1901, Guglielmo Marconi achieves a spectacular publicity coup. He successfully transmits a radio signal across the Atlantic Ocean from Cornwall, England, to Newfoundland, Canada. It is a distance of over 2,000 miles, achieved with relatively simple equipment. The press proclaims Marconi the king of wireless communication. Investors flock to his company. The future of wireless, it seems, belongs to the practical Italian, not the visionary Serbian. Chapter 21. The Unraveling. Tesla goes back to Morgan, requesting additional funding. He needs more money to complete Wardencliff, to make it operational, to demonstrate its superiority to Marconi's system. But in his desperation to secure funding, Tesla makes a fatal error. He reveals the true scope of his ambitions. He tells Morgan that Wardenclyffe is not just a communication system. It is a power transmission system designed to broadcast free energy to the entire world. Morgan's response is immediate and devastating. He refuses further investment. The reason is brutally simple. How do you meter free energy? How do you profit from power that is available to anyone with a receiver? Morgan has built his fortune on controlling resources and infrastructure, railroads, steel mills, electrical utilities. The idea of energy that cannot be metered, cannot be controlled, cannot be monopolized, is anathema to everything he represents. Tesla tries other investors. He writes letters, gives interviews, makes promises. But the wireless market now belongs to Marconi, whose more modest and practical approach is generating actual revenue from ship-to-shore communications. Tesla's grander vision seems increasingly unrealistic, more dream than viable business plan. No one is willing to invest the substantial sums needed to complete Wardenclyffe. By 1903, construction has stalled. The tower stands incomplete, its equipment only partially installed. Tesla continues to work at the site with a skeleton crew, conducting experiments when he can scrape together funding for materials and power. On a few occasions, the tower is powered up, and witnesses report seeing spectacular electrical discharges from the dome, lighting up the night sky. But these demonstrations lead nowhere. The investors stay away. The financial pressure crushes Tesla. He has invested his own money, including royalties from his AC patents, into Wardenclyffe. He has taken on substantial debt. The property taxes on the facility are mounting. His other business ventures are failing or barely breaking even. The man who could have been wealthy from his AC patents alone is sliding toward bankruptcy. In 1904, the U.S. Patent Office reverses its previous decisions and grants Marconi a patent for radio. Despite the fact that Marconi's system uses multiple Tesla patents, the decision is widely believed to be influenced by Marconi's powerful financial backers, including Andrew Carnegie and Thomas Edison. For Tesla, it is another devastating blow. Not only is he losing the commercial race to Marconi, but he is also losing the recognition for his pioneering work. By 1906, Tesla can no longer afford even the minimal staff at Wardenclyffe. The facility essentially shuts down, though Tesla keeps ownership of the property, unable to sell it, but also unable to complete or operate it. The tower stands as a monument to what might have been, a cathedral to a future that failed to arrive. Looking at the incomplete Wardenclyffe Tower, one sees more than just an abandoned construction project. One sees the collision between visionary genius and commercial reality, between the desire to give freely and the necessity to profit, between the future as Tesla imagined it and the future that actually emerged. The tower is beautiful in its way, its distinctive shape striking against the Long Island sky. But it is also tragic, a physical manifestation of dreams that soared too high, too far, too fast for the world to follow. Chapter 22. Theoretical vindication, practical failure. In later years, as radio astronomy and advanced electromagnetic theory developed, scientists would realize that many of Tesla's ideas about wireless transmission were essentially correct. His understanding of Earth resonance, of using the planet itself as a conductor, of broadcasting power using standing waves, these were not fantasies but genuine phenomena, ahead of their time. The technical challenge was not that wireless power transmission is impossible. It is possible, and modern demonstrations have proven it at small scales. The challenge is that it is inefficient compared to wire transmission for most applications, and the power dissipates rapidly with distance unless you use extremely high powers that would be dangerous and difficult to control. Tesla understood the principles, but the engineering challenges of building a safe, practical global system were even greater than he realized. More fundamentally, Wardenclyffe failed because Tesla misunderstood what the world wanted. People and businesses needed communication more urgently than they needed wireless power. Marconi's simple Morse code transmissions were immediately useful for ships, for military applications, for news distribution. Tesla's grand vision of free global energy was decades ahead of its time in conception, but perhaps centuries ahead in terms of social and economic readiness. There's a deeper irony in Wardencliffs' failure. Tesla wanted to give his invention freely to humanity, to make energy as available as air. But that very generosity made his project uninvestable. The capitalist system that had allowed him to develop his AC motor and bring it to market could not accommodate a technology that could not be monopolized and metered. Tesla's idealism, his genuine desire to benefit all humanity, became the instrument of his defeat. Wardenclyffe stands incomplete, but not demolished, not yet. For nearly 2 more decades, the tower will loom over Long Island, a slowly decaying reminder of ambition unfulfilled. Tesla will occasionally visit, walking through the empty laboratory, climbing to look out over the land he hoped would change the world. These visits become more painful as the years pass, as the gap between vision and reality becomes impossible to ignore. The future Tesla saw in his mind's eye was real. We live in it today. A world of wireless communication, of global information networks, of electricity powering every aspect of civilization. But the path to that future did not run through Wardenclyffe. The tower was the right vision, but the wrong vehicle, the correct destination but an impassable route. And Tesla, for all his genius, could not build a bridge between his imagination and the world's ability to receive it. The man who saw the future has begun his long slide into obscurity and poverty. The greatest inventions are behind him. The years ahead will bring increasing eccentricity, growing isolation, and deepening tragedy. Wardenclyffe, the monument to impossible dreams, will cast its shadow over everything that remains. Chapter 23. Financial Ruin. The years following Wardenclyffe's collapse are marked by desperate attempts to stay solvent. Tesla's financial situation deteriorates steadily. The AC patents that made Westinghouse wealthy expire, ending the royalty income that provided Tesla's primary support. He has few successful products to market, no steady income stream, and substantial debts accumulated from Wardenclyffe and other ventures. In 1912, facing complete bankruptcy, Tesla is approached by George Westinghouse. Westinghouse himself is struggling. His company is over-leveraged and faces potential collapse. The bankers refinancing Westinghouse's company demand concessions, including elimination of the expensive royalty agreement with Tesla. Westinghouse comes to Tesla personally, explaining the situation. The royalty agreement, if maintained, would make Tesla one of the wealthiest men in America. Every AC motor sold, every kilowatt-hour transmitted, would generate revenue. Over the remaining life of the patents, it could amount to tens of millions of dollars. But Westinghouse tells Tesla that maintaining the agreement would bankrupt his company, destroying everything they have built together. Tesla's response is immediate and characteristic. He tears up the contract. "Mr. Westinghouse," he says, "you have been my friend. You believed in me when others had no faith. You were brave enough to go ahead when others lacked courage. You supported me when even your own engineers lacked vision. You deserve all the success that has come to you. Here's your contract, and here is my contract. I will tear them both to pieces, and you will no longer have any trouble from my royalties." It is an act of extraordinary generosity, or extraordinary foolishness, depending on one's perspective. Westinghouse is deeply moved, promising to support Tesla in other ways. But the practical effect is that Tesla has voluntarily surrendered the fortune that should have been his. He has saved Westinghouse's company and secured AC's future as the electrical standard. He have also condemned himself to poverty. Tesla begins moving from hotel to hotel in New York, often leaving unpaid bills behind. The Waldorf Astoria, once his luxurious home, becomes unaffordable. He moves to cheaper establishments, then cheaper still. His belongings, including laboratory equipment and papers, are often seized by hotel managers for unpaid rent. Loyal friends occasionally pay his debts and recover his possessions, but the cycle repeats. Despite his poverty, Tesla maintains certain eccentricities and standards. He continues to dress formally, keeps himself immaculately groomed, dines at fine restaurants even when he cannot pay the bill. His pride will not allow him to appear as the pauper he has become. He maintains the facade of the distinguished scientist and gentleman inventor, even as the reality crumbles beneath him. Chapter 24. The eccentric hermit. As Tesla's financial situation deteriorates, his behavior becomes increasingly unusual. The peculiarities that were always present, his acute sensitivities, his precise habits, his solitary nature, intensify into full-blown eccentricities that mark him, in the public eye, as odd and perhaps mentally unstable. His sensitivity to sensory input, always pronounced, becomes extreme. He cannot tolerate the touch of hair or round objects. The sight of pearls worn by women causes him physical discomfort. He becomes obsessed with the number 3 and its multiples. He must walk around a building 3 times before entering. He uses 18 napkins at each meal, 3 sets of 6. He counts his steps to ensure they are divisible by 3. These compulsions are consistent with what would now be recognized as obsessive-compulsive disorder. But in the early 20th century, they simply mark him as increasingly strange. He develops an intense relationship with pigeons. Beginning around 19, intensifying through the following decades, Tesla spends hours each day feeding pigeons in New York City parks and from his hotel windows. He cares for injured birds in his room, spending money he doesn't have on seed and medical care. He claims to understand them, to communicate with them in ways that others cannot. To his contemporaries, this behavior seems like madness, or at least severe eccentricity. But there may be more to it than simple oddness. Tesla has always been isolated, has always found human relationships difficult and unsatisfying. His work has been his primary relationship. His inventions, his children. As his career collapses and his isolation deepens, the pigeons offer something he desperately needs. Beings that accept his care without judgment. Creatures that come to him reliably. Relationships that are simple and uncomplicated by the disappointments and betrayals that have marked his human interaction. He describes one pigeon in particular with language that seems almost romantic. "I loved that pigeon as a man loves a woman," he tells one interviewer, "and she loved me. As long as I had her, there was purpose to my life." He describes how the bird would fly to his window, no matter where he was staying, how she would comfort him during his darkest periods. When she dies, Tesla experiences it as a devastating personal loss. "When she died, something went out of my life," he says. "I knew my life's work was finished." Chapter 25. The inventor who lived too long. Yet even in decline, even in poverty and isolation, Tesla's mind continues to generate ideas. Throughout the 1910s, 1920s, and 1930s, he announces inventions and discoveries that range from plausible to fantastic. Some are grounded in real research. Others seem to be the products of a mind unmoored from practical constraints. He claims to have invented a death ray, a directed energy weapon that can destroy aircraft at hundreds of miles distance. He provides enough technical detail that the claim seems at least partially credible, describing a device that would accelerate particles to tremendous velocities using electrostatic forces. During the increasingly tense years leading to World War II, several governments show interest, but no one provides funding to actually build the device. After his death, the FBI will seize his papers, concerned that foreign powers might obtain weapons designs. He describes machines that can photograph thought, receivers that can detect thoughts from afar. He claims to have developed a method for interplanetary communication. He speaks of earthquakes that can be created by mechanical oscillators tuned to the Earth's resonant frequency. Some of these claims have elements of truth. Mechanical resonance can indeed cause structural damage, as the famous example of the Tacoma Narrows Bridge collapse would later demonstrate. But Tesla's descriptions make them sound more like science fiction than engineering. The press treats him increasingly as a curiosity rather than a serious scientist. On his birthdays, which he celebrates according to the old Julian calendar, adding to his exotic reputation, newspapers send reporters to interview him. The resulting articles are a mixture of genuine scientific prediction and sensationalist reporting. Tesla predicts wireless transmission of power, correct. Robots, correct. Female superiority in future society, prescient in its way. The end of war through devastating weapons, partially correct. And communication with other planets, no evidence yet. Reading these interviews, one sees a mind still formidable, but increasingly untethered from the collaborative scientific community that might have grounded and focused his ideas. Tesla has always worked alone, has always trusted his mental visualizations over collaborative experimentation. In his prime, this method produced revolutionary inventions. In his decline, isolated and impoverished, the same method produces ideas that cannot be distinguished from fantasies because they can never be tested or built. Chapter 26. Wardencliffs End. The final indignity to Tesla's greatest dream comes in 1917. The United States has entered World War I, and there is paranoia about German spies and sabotage. Wardenclyffe Tower, standing dark and unused, but still visible for miles, is seen as a potential navigational landmark for enemy ships or submarines. There are also concerns, probably unfounded but persistent, that the tower could be used for enemy communications. The U.S. government orders the tower demolished. On July 4, 1917, explosives bring down the structure that Tesla built to change the world. The distinctive mushroom-shaped top crashes to the ground. Workers dismantle the remains and sell them for scrap metal to pay some of Tesla's debts. The deep foundation well remains, filled in with debris. The laboratory building stands empty, eventually falling into disrepair. Tesla does not witness the demolition. He cannot bear to watch, but he knows when it happens. The tower that represented his greatest ambitions, the physical manifestation of his vision of a wirelessly connected world, is reduced to rubble and sold for scrap. It is a metaphor for Tesla's own life. The grand vision destroyed. The materials recycled for mundane purposes. The dream reduced to fragments. For years afterward, Tesla will occasionally take the train out to Long Island and walk the grounds where Wardenclyffe stood. He circles the empty foundation, remembers the experiments he conducted there, the demonstrations he gave, the moment when he believed the future was within his grasp. These pilgrimages become fewer as he ages, as even the fare for the train becomes difficult to afford. The site where Wardenclyffe stood will remain essentially abandoned for decades. The property changes hands multiple times. The laboratory building deteriorates, but is not demolished. It is too solidly built, and no one wants to pay for its removal. It stands as a decaying monument, gradually being overtaken by vegetation, its windows broken, its machinery long since removed. A ghost building for a ghost dream. Chapter 27. The Edison Medal. In 1917, the same year Wardenclyffe Tower falls, the American Institute of Electrical Engineers offers Tesla its highest honor, the Edison Medal. The irony is profound and painful. The award is named after Tesla's old rival, the man who betrayed him, the man who waged a propaganda war against Tesla's technology. Now that very organization wants to honor Tesla with Edison's name attached. Tesla initially refuses. The thought of accepting an award named after Edison is intolerable. But his friends and colleagues persuade him that the honor is genuine, that the scientific community recognizes his contributions regardless of Edison's past behavior. Reluctantly, Tesla agrees to accept. The award ceremony is held at the Engineers Club in New York. Tesla is supposed to attend a formal dinner and then receive the medal before an audience of distinguished engineers and scientists. But when the time comes for the presentation, Tesla is nowhere to be found. Search parties are sent out into the night. They eventually find him in Bryant Park, feeding his pigeons. "You wouldn't understand," Tesla tells them. "These are my friends. They need me." They persuade him to come to the ceremony. He arrives late, disheveled, looking every bit the eccentric hermit he has become. B.A. Barrand, presenting the medal, gives a speech that attempts to restore Tesla's reputation. Were we to seize and eliminate from our industrial world the results of Mr. Tesla's work, the wheels of industry would cease to turn. Our electric cars and trains would stop. Our towns would be dark. Our mills would be dead and idle. His name marks an epoch in the advance of electrical science. From that work has sprung a revolution in the electrical art. Tesla accepts the medal with a brief, dignified speech. He thanks the Institute, speaks briefly about his work and his vision for the future, and leaves as quickly as propriety allows. The medal joins his other honors, and there are many, from scientific societies around the world, in whatever trunk or hotel room currently holds his possessions. It is recognition, but recognition without resources, honor without income, fame without fortune. The Edison Medal ceremony encapsulates Tesla's position. By the late 1910s, he is recognized by the scientific community as a major contributor to electrical engineering. His work is acknowledged as foundational. But this recognition translates to nothing practical. No funding for new projects, no secure income, no ability to continue his research. He is an honored pauper, a celebrated has-been, a giant of the past with no place in the present. Chapter 28. The Final Hotel. By the 1920s and 1930s, Tesla has settled into a pattern that will define his last 2 decades. He lives alone in a series of increasingly modest hotels in Manhattan. His routine is rigid and unchanging. He wakes early, walks to the park to feed his pigeons, works on calculations and theories in his room, occasionally gives interviews to journalists. He has no laboratory, no equipment, no means to test any of his ideas. His last residence is room 3327 at the New Yorker Hotel, a reasonably comfortable accommodation that he cannot afford. The management is aware that they are housing a famous inventor, allows him to stay despite unpaid bills. Westinghouse Electric, perhaps feeling guilty about the torn-up royalty contract, quietly pays part of his hotel bill, a small pension for the man who made their fortune possible. Tesla's room is cluttered with papers, calculations, theories, patent applications that will never be filed. He still works, still imagines, still designs machines in his mind. But these inventions exist only as descriptions and equations. There is no path from conception to realization, no laboratory to build prototypes, no funding to file patents, no company to manufacture them. Tesla has returned to where he began, a mind full of visions that the world cannot see. He maintains his dignity despite everything. He still dresses formally for his walks, still tips generously at restaurants even when the tip represents a substantial portion of his remaining funds. He gives interviews where he discusses his past achievements and future predictions with the same confidence he had in his prime. If the reporters notice the shabby hotel, the unpaid bills, the solitary eccentricity, they rarely mention it in their articles. His health deteriorates slowly. He has never been robust. His nervous system has always been sensitive, prone to mysterious ailments. Now, in his 80s, the accumulated stresses take their toll. He suffers from insomnia, surviving on a few hours of sleep per night. His diet is irregular and often inadequate. He refuses most medical care, preferring to treat himself according to his own theories. In 1937, at age 81, Tesla is hit by a taxi while crossing a street on his way to feed pigeons. He suffers broken ribs and possible internal injuries. True to form, he refuses to see a doctor, returning to his hotel room to recover on his own. He does recover, more or less, but his mobility is reduced, and he becomes even more of a recluse. His last years are marked by increasing isolation. The few friends who remain are dying off or have lost touch. His family in Serbia is separated from him by an ocean and, increasingly, by the political turmoil engulfing Europe. He follows the news of the approaching war with anxiety, knowing that the technologies he pioneered, radio, remote control, electrical systems, will play crucial roles in the conflict. Chapter 29. The Final Vision. Even in his final years, Tesla's mind reaches forward. In interviews and letters, he describes his vision of the future with remarkable prescience. He predicts wireless communication devices that people will carry, able to transmit messages, images, and sound across the world instantly. He is describing smartphones and the internet, though his proposed mechanism is different. Automated factories where machines manufacture goods with minimal human intervention. He sees the age of automation and robotics. Renewable energy sources, replacing coal and oil. He speaks of harnessing solar, wind, and geothermal energy, technologies that exist today, but were barely imaginable in the 1940s. Aircraft that can take off and land vertically, hovering in place. He is describing helicopters and modern VTOL aircraft. The end of warfare through devastating weapons that make conflict too destructive to contemplate. He predicts something like nuclear deterrence, though he frames it in terms of his death ray concepts. Some of his predictions miss the mark or remain unrealized. He does not foresee computers or the digital revolution, though he understands remote control and automation. He does not predict the moon landing or the space age, though he speculates about interplanetary communication. His vision of wireless power transmission has not been realized at global scale, though wireless charging exists at small scales. But the overall accuracy of his predictions is remarkable. The world of the early 21st century, wireless communication, renewable energy, automation, global information networks, is recognizably the world Tesla described. He saw it not because he was a prophet, but because he understood the fundamental principles that would drive technological development. He knew what was possible, even if the specific implementation would differ from his proposals. In his hotel room at the New Yorker, Tesla continues calculating, theorizing, imagining. He fills notebooks with equations and diagrams that no one will see until after his death. He writes letters that will never be sent, patent applications that will never be filed. The inventor works on, even though there is no one to listen, no one to build what he designs, no one to transform his visions into reality. On January 5, 1943, Tesla places a "Do Not Disturb" sign on his door. It is a standing instruction he has given before. He does not want to be interrupted during his work and rest periods. The hotel staff respects his wishes. For 2 days, no one checks on him. On January 7, 1943, the maid finally enters room 3327. She finds Nikola Tesla dead, lying peacefully in his bed. He is 86 years old. The official cause of death is coronary thrombosis, a blood clot to the heart. But in a larger sense, Tesla has died of exhaustion, poverty, isolation, and broken dreams. The man who wanted to light the world has died alone in a dark hotel room, his greatest inventions unrealized, his fortune squandered, his name largely forgotten by the general public. On his nightstand are papers covered with calculations. On his desk are plans for inventions that will never be built. In his mind, extinguished now forever, were visions that the world was not ready to receive. The future Tesla saw has not arrived. Not yet, but it is coming, rushing toward us on invisible waves, powered by principles he discovered, shaped by dreams he could not make real. The man who saw the future has finally caught up to his own mortality. But the future itself, patient and inevitable, continues its approach. Chapter 30. The government moves in. When Tesla's body is discovered, the immediate response reveals how his significance has been misunderstood and underestimated. To the hotel management, he is simply an elderly tenant who died in his room. To the New York police, it is an unremarkable death. An old man, no signs of foul play, no family to notify. They catalog his belongings, a meager collection that gives no hint of the mind that once occupied that body. But within hours, federal agents arrive. It is January 1943. The United States is deep into World War II, and intelligence agencies are acutely aware that Tesla has spent decades working on weapons concepts, communication systems, and other technologies with potential military applications. More worrying is the possibility that hostile powers, Nazi Germany or Imperial Japan, might try to obtain Tesla's papers and research. The FBI seizes everything in Tesla's hotel room. Agents enter and remove notebooks, documents, technical drawings, personal correspondence. Decades of work reduced to boxes and crates that are loaded into government vehicles and driven away. They also confiscate materials Tesla had stored at other locations: the Manhattan storage warehouse, the Governor Clinton Hotel where he had stayed previously, any place that might contain his research. The government brings in Dr. John G. Trump, a prominent electrical engineer and professor, and coincidentally, uncle of future President Donald Trump, to analyze Tesla's papers and determine if there is anything of military value. Dr. Trump spends several days reviewing the materials and concludes that Tesla's work, while impressive for its time, contains nothing revolutionary that the government doesn't already know or isn't already developing. The death ray Tesla claimed to have invented appears to be theoretical rather than a working design. Dr. Trump's analysis is probably correct. Tesla's weapons concepts, while sound in principle, would have required technological capabilities beyond what was available in the 1940s. But his assessment also reveals how far Tesla had drifted from the mainstream of scientific development. By the time of his death, Tesla was working alone, without access to the latest research, without knowledge of advances in physics and engineering that had occurred since his productive years. His ideas, even the sound ones, were decades out of date. The seized papers are classified and stored. Tesla's nephew, Sava Kosanovic, a Yugoslav ambassador to the United States, fights for their return, arguing that they are family property, not government assets. It takes years of negotiation, but eventually most of the papers are returned to the family, though rumors persist that the most sensitive materials were retained by U.S. intelligence agencies. Chapter 31. The Funeral of a Forgotten Genius. Tesla's funeral takes place on January 12, 1943, at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine in New York City. It is a modest affair, especially given the magnitude of Tesla's contributions. About 2,000 people attend, a respectable number, but hardly the massive public mourning that greeted Edison's death 12 years earlier. The attendees are a mixture of scientists, engineers, representatives from electrical companies, members of the Yugoslav community in New York, and a scattering of ordinary people who remember Tesla's name from his years of fame. The mayor of New York sends a representative. There are wreaths from Eleanor Roosevelt, Vice President Wallace, and various scientific organizations. But there is no massive outpouring of public grief, no sense that the world has lost one of its great minds. The eulogies acknowledge Tesla's contributions, the AC motor, the polyphase system, his work on wireless transmission. But there is also a sense of elegy for a man who outlived his time, who persisted into an age that had passed him by. He is remembered as a great inventor of the past, not as a visionary whose work points toward the future. After the funeral, Tesla's body is cremated. His ashes are placed in a golden sphere, a fitting container for a man who spent his life working with electromagnetic fields and resonance. The sphere, along with his restored papers and some personal effects, is eventually sent to Belgrade, Yugoslavia, where they are housed in what will become the Nikola Tesla Museum. The New York Times publishes an obituary that acknowledges Tesla's contributions, but also reflects the confusion and dismissal that marked his later years. Nikola Tesla, one of the truly great inventors who celebrated his 84th birthday on July 10th, died on Friday in his room at the Hotel New Yorker. In his lifetime, he secured some 700 patents. His experiments with radio and television ran from 1893 until his retirement, and even in recent years he was believed to be working on death ray experiments and on a plan to interplanetation. The obituary is respectful, but also implies that Tesla's later work was somewhat crackpot, that he had declined from genuine innovation into eccentric speculation. It is an assessment that would persist for decades. Tesla as a tragic figure, a once great mind that lost its way, a genius who lived too long and promised too much. Chapter 32. The Wilderness Years. For nearly 2 decades after Tesla's death, his reputation languishes. The immediate post-war period is dominated by different heroes. The scientists who worked on radar, on the atomic bomb, on the new technologies that won the war. Tesla's contributions to radio are obscured by Marconi's fame. His AC system is so ubiquitous that it seems to have always existed, with no inventor necessary. His more speculative work, wireless power, directed energy weapons, interplanetary communication, seems like the fantasies of a man who had lost touch with reality. In technical circles, Tesla is remembered as an important contributor to electrical engineering, but not as a towering genius. His patents are studied as historical documents, his polyphase system acknowledged as a significant innovation, but the man himself recedes into the background. When histories of the electrical age are written, Edison receives the lion's share of attention, with Tesla mentioned as a supporting character in the War of Currents, but not as a major figure in his own right. Part of this neglect is simply the nature of his contributions. Tesla invented systems and principles rather than standalone devices. The AC motor and polyphase system are fundamental technologies that underlie countless applications, but they are invisible to most users. When someone turns on a light or starts an electric motor, they don't think about Tesla any more than they think about the inventors of the wheel or the lever. Foundational technologies become invisible precisely because they are so fundamental. But there is also an element of deliberate obscurity. Companies that profited from Tesla's patents had little incentive to promote his legacy. It might raise questions about whether they had compensated him fairly. Marconi supporters and the radio industry had reason to downplay Tesla's priority in wireless transmission. And Tesla himself, with his eccentric later years and grandiose claims, had damaged his own reputation in ways that made it easy to dismiss him as a tragic figure rather than a misunderstood genius. In Yugoslavia, however, Tesla is celebrated as a national hero. The Tesla Museum in Belgrade becomes a shrine to his memory, preserving his papers, personal effects, and the golden sphere containing his ashes. In the communist era, Tesla is promoted as a Serbian genius, whose contributions were insufficiently recognized by the capitalist West. This political appropriation has its own problems, but it at least keeps Tesla's name and work in public consciousness in one part of the world. Chapter 33. The rediscovery begin. The revival of Tesla's reputation begins slowly in the 1950s and accelerates through the 1960s and beyond. Several factors contribute to this rediscovery. First, the Supreme Court ruling. In 1943, just months after Tesla's death, the U.S. Supreme Court overturns Marconi's radio patent, ruling that Marconi's work relied on prior patents by Tesla, Oliver Lodge, and John Stone. The decision officially recognizes Tesla as a primary inventor of radio, though the ruling receives limited public attention at the time. But it provides legal and historical vindication for Tesla's claims and begins the process of restoring his reputation. Second, the development of new technologies makes Tesla's work relevant again. As television broadcasting, microwave transmission, and eventually satellite communication develop, engineers and scientists rediscover Tesla's patents and papers. They find that Tesla had anticipated many of these developments, that his theoretical framework for wireless transmission was essentially correct, and that his experiments in Colorado Springs had demonstrated principles that are now fundamental to telecommunications. Third, the space age and the development of directed energy weapons renew interest in some of Tesla's more speculative work. While his death ray was never built, the principle of directed energy weapons becomes real with the development of lasers and particle beam research. His ideas about resonance and standing waves find applications in fields from seismology to materials science. Finally, popular culture begins to rediscover Tesla as a romantic figure. The misunderstood genius, the inventor ahead of his time, the man who wanted to give free energy to the world, but was defeated by greedy capitalists. This narrative, while sometimes oversimplified, contains essential truth and captures public imagination in ways that dry technical recognition does not. Chapter 34. The Cultural Icon. By the 1980s and accelerating through the 1990s and 2000s, Tesla experiences a full cultural rehabilitation. He becomes a counterculture hero, a symbol of pure scientific inquiry versus commercial exploitation, a visionary prophet of the wireless age. Books, documentaries, novels, and films explore his life and work. His image, the tall, gaunt figure with intense eyes and formal dress, becomes iconic, appearing on t-shirts, posters, and album covers. The internet age particularly embraces Tesla. Websites and forums devoted to his life and inventions proliferate. Online communities debate his claims, attempt to reproduce his experiments, and promote his legacy. The fact that Tesla envisioned something very much like the internet itself, a global wireless network for transmitting information, makes him especially resonant for the digital generation. In 2023, entrepreneurs Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning named their electric car company Tesla Motors, later Tesla Inc., explicitly honoring the inventor of the AC motor that makes electric vehicles practical. When Elon Musk joins as chairman and later CEO, he becomes the public face of the company, and Tesla's name reaches a new level of mainstream recognition. Millions of people who know nothing else about Nikola Tesla know that he is the namesake of an innovative car company. The Tesla Science Center and Museum movement grows. The site of Wardencliffs Tower, abandoned for decades, is purchased by a non-profit organization in 2013 after a successful crowdfunding campaign. Plans are developed to restore the property and create a proper Tesla museum and science education center. The laboratory building, still standing despite decades of neglect, becomes a tangible connection to Tesla's greatest dream. Popular culture embraces Tesla as a character. He appears in films like The Prestige, 2006, where he is portrayed by David Bowie in a fictionalized story about his rivalry with Edison. He becomes a character in video games, comics, and alternative history novels. His name is attached to everything, from rock bands to microbreweries. Some of these representations are historically accurate. Others are pure fantasy. But collectively, they ensure that Tesla's name and image remain in public consciousness. Chapter 35. The Scientific Reassessment. Parallel to the popular rediscovery, serious historical and scientific reassessment of Tesla's work proceeds. Historians of science examine his contributions in the context of late 19th and early 20th century electrical engineering, disentangling his genuine innovations from later mythologizing. The reassessment confirms several key points. Tesla's invention of the polyphase AC motor and his development of the complete AC power system were genuine breakthrough innovations of the first order. These were not incremental improvements, but fundamental reconceptions of how electrical power could be generated, transmitted, and used. They remain the basis of electrical power systems worldwide. Tesla's work on high-frequency alternating current, culminating in the Tesla Coil, was genuinely pioneering and opened new areas of research. While he did not fully develop radio communication, his patents and demonstrations clearly establishes him as the primary inventor of the radio. And the Supreme Court's 1943 ruling reflects technical reality. Tesla's theoretical understanding of electromagnetic phenomena was in many ways ahead of formal theory. He was working with concepts like resonance, standing waves, and wireless power transmission before the full mathematical framework existed to describe them. Some of his insights anticipated later developments in radio astronomy, electromagnetic field theory, and wireless power transmission. However, the reassessment also acknowledges Tesla's limitations. His later weapons claims, while based on sound principles, were not supported by working designs or evidence that he had solved the fundamental engineering challenges. The death ray and earthquake machine remain theoretical concepts rather than suppressed inventions. His claims about receiving signals from Mars or Venus, while he may have detected natural radio emissions from space, were premature and not supported by sufficient evidence. He was observing real phenomena, but misinterpreting their source. His refusal to engage with the emerging theoretical physics of the early 20th century, quantum mechanics, relativity, atomic theory, limited his later work. He remained committed to a 19th century understanding of physics, even as the field underwent revolutionary changes. The balanced assessment that emerges is of a genuine genius whose productive period generated world-changing innovations, whose later period generated interesting ideas that were increasingly speculative, and whose legacy was obscured for decades by a combination of commercial interests, his own eccentricity, and the difficulty of appreciating foundational technology. Chapter 36. The Modern Verdict. Today, Nikola Tesla occupies a secure position in the pantheon of great inventors and scientists. His contributions are recognized as fundamental to modern civilization. The AC electrical system he invented powers virtually every electrical grid on Earth. His work on wireless transmission underlies all modern telecommunications. His patents are cited in thousands of subsequent inventions. The SI unit of magnetic flux density bears his name, the Tesla, ensuring that every physics student will encounter his legacy. But Tesla's significance goes beyond his specific inventions. He represents something important about the relationship between vision and reality, between imagination and implementation, between the possible and the practical. Tesla could see farther than his contemporaries. He genuinely envisioned the wireless, electrified, connected world we now inhabit. But he struggled to build the bridge from vision to reality, to navigate the commercial and social systems necessary to bring radical innovations to market. His tragedy was not that he failed, but that he succeeded too well at imagination and not well enough at implementation. Wardencliffs Tower, his greatest failure, was not a bad idea. Wireless power transmission is possible, and wireless communication has become ubiquitous, exactly as Tesla predicted. But the specific path he chose, the way he attempted to realize the vision, was not viable given the technology, economics, and social structures of his time. There is a deeper lesson in Tesla's life about the nature of innovation itself. Breakthrough innovations require not just technical brilliance, but also timing, resources, social acceptance, and often a degree of luck. Tesla had the technical brilliance in abundance, but his timing was sometimes too early, his resources insufficient, his social skills inadequate for navigating the commercial world, and his luck often poor. Yet, in the long run, Tesla's vision has been vindicated. We live in the world he imagined, wirelessly connected, electrically powered, automated, global in scope. The technologies may have arrived via different routes than he proposed, but the destination is recognizably the one he saw in his mind's eye while walking through that Budapest park in 1882. Wardencliffs remains as a physical reminder of Tesla's grandest dream. The site, after decades of abandonment and threat of demolition, has been preserved and is slowly being restored. The laboratory building still stands, a solid brick structure that has weathered a century of neglect. The foundation well, driven 120 feet into the bedrock, remains filled in but intact. The tower itself is gone, demolished in 1917, but its absence is perhaps more eloquent than its presence would be. Walking the grounds of Wardenclyffe today, one can imagine Tesla's vision. A world powered wirelessly, information broadcast globally, energy as abundant and free as sunlight. It was a beautiful vision, a generous vision, perhaps an impossible vision given the technological and economic constraints of the early 20th century. But it was a vision that pointed toward genuine truth about where technology was heading. Modern wireless power transmission exists, though not at the global scale Tesla envisioned. Wireless communication has exceeded even Tesla's imagination in its ubiquity and capability. The Internet, while not implemented through Wardenclyffe-style towers, is functionally what Tesla described: a global network for transmitting information instantly to anyone, anywhere. The smartphone is the pocket device he predicted for accessing this network. In this sense, Wardencliffs succeeded even in its failure. It was a marker placed in the path of the future, a sign pointing the direction that technology would ultimately take. That the specific route differed from Tesla's proposal does not diminish the accuracy of his vision. In 2025, more than 80 years after Tesla's death, his influence is more visible and acknowledged than at any time during his life. The Tesla company, now one of the world's most valuable automakers, ensures that his name is known to millions who might otherwise never have heard of him. The company's mission, to accelerate the transition to sustainable energy, aligns with Tesla's own vision of clean, abundant electrical power. Educational institutions study his work not just as history, but as continuing inspiration. Engineering students learn about the rotating magnetic field in polyphase systems. Physics students study the Tesla coil. Telecommunications students examine his wireless transmission patents. He has become a standard part of the electrical engineering curriculum, his innovations recognized as foundational. The Serbian-American community claims him as one of their own, celebrating his heritage while acknowledging his American achievements. Both Serbia and the United States honor him with monuments, museums, and commemorations. He has become one of those rare figures who bridges cultures and nations, belonging fully to neither but celebrated by both. In popular imagination, Tesla has achieved almost mythical status. He is the archetypal mad scientist, the misunderstood genius, the inventor ahead of his time. Some of this mythology oversimplifies or distorts the historical reality. Tesla becomes a vessel for whatever values or ideas people want to project onto him. But at the core of the myth is an essential truth. Tesla genuinely was a visionary who saw possibilities that others could not imagine, and who dedicated his life to making those possibilities real. The speculation about suppressed inventions and secret technologies persists in conspiracy theory circles. His own eccentricity and the difficulty of appreciating foundational technology. Supposedly, Tesla discovered free energy, or anti-gravity, or time travel, and these discoveries were hidden by governments or corporations. There is no evidence for any of these claims, but they reflect a psychological need to believe that Tesla's true genius was even greater than the historical record shows. That somewhere there exists a secret that would vindicate his most grandiose claims. The reality is that Tesla's actual documented achievements are remarkable enough without embellishment. He invented the AC motor and polyphase system that powers modern civilization. He pioneered radio and wireless transmission. He explored high-frequency electricity and discovered phenomena that would not be fully understood for decades. He envisioned the wireless, electrified, connected world we now inhabit. These achievements, properly understood, are more impressive than any speculative secret invention. Tesla's life raises questions that remain relevant to our own time. How should society support visionary research that may not produce immediate commercial results? Tesla's tragedy was partly that his most ambitious projects could not be monetized in ways that attracted investment. Today's technology companies face similar tensions between quarterly profits and long-term innovation. What is the relationship between individual genius and collaborative science? Tesla worked largely alone, trusting his mental visualizations over experimental collaboration. Modern science is increasingly collaborative and interdisciplinary. Both approaches have value, but Tesla's story suggests the limits of pure individual brilliance without institutional support and peer review. How do we balance the idealistic desire to give innovations freely to humanity against the practical need for inventors to profit from their work? Tesla wanted to provide free energy to the world, but this very idealism made his projects uninvestable. The tension between open science and proprietary technology remains unresolved. What happens to visionaries who live beyond their productive years? Tesla's later decades raise uncomfortable questions about genius and aging, about the public's relationship with inventors who outlive their contributions, about how society treats its pioneers when they are no longer producing commercially viable innovations. These questions have no easy answers, but Tesla's life illuminates them in ways that remain instructive. Standing at the distance of more than 80 years, we can now see Nikola Tesla with clarity that his contemporaries lacked. He was not a perfect genius. He had significant blind spots, made poor business decisions, and some of his later claims were unsupported by evidence. He was not a tragic martyr destroyed by evil corporations. He made genuine mistakes and bore responsibility for some of his failures. But he was genuinely visionary. He saw the essential shape of the electrified wireless future and dedicated his life to building it. His AC motor and polyphase system were breakthrough innovations that literally changed the world. His work on wireless transmission pioneered technologies that would become fundamental to modern life. His theoretical insights into electromagnetic phenomena were decades ahead of formal theory. He was also genuinely tragic, not in a melodramatic sense, but in the classical sense of a great person, brought down by a combination of circumstances and character flaws. His idealism, his inability to navigate commercial realities, his solitary nature, his perfectionism, his vision that exceeded his era's ability to realize it, all contributed to his downfall. But these same qualities also enabled his greatest achievements. Tesla wanted to be remembered. He wanted his contributions acknowledged, his name honored, his vision vindicated. For decades after his death, it seemed that this wish would be denied. But time has restored Tesla to his rightful place. His name is known and honored. His contributions are recognized as foundational. His vision of a wireless, electrified, connected world has come to pass, even if the specific route differed from what he proposed. In the end, Tesla succeeded in the most important way. He changed the world. The electrical system that powers modern civilization speaks with his accent. The wireless technologies that connect us descend from his innovations. The very possibility of global instant communication and abundant electrical power, possibilities we now take for granted, were once the exclusive vision of a man who could see the future with uncanny clarity. Epilog. The man who saw tomorrow. On a winter evening in 1882, a young Serbian engineer walked through a park in Budapest as the sun set. In his mind, a problem had been spinning for years, an impossible problem, according to his professor, a problem that violated the fundamental laws of physics. But as he recited poetry and watched the dying light, the solution arrived complete and perfect, as real in his imagination as any physical object. That moment changed the world. From that single flash of insight flowed the AC motor, the polyphase system, the electrification of civilization. But more than that, it revealed something fundamental about Nikola Tesla. He could see what others could not, imagine what others deemed impossible, and believe absolutely in visions that existed only in his mind. For 60 years after that Budapest sunset, Tesla chased his visions. Some he realized, the AC system that powers every city on Earth. Some he partially achieved, wireless communication that would bloom long after his death into the connected world we now inhabit. Some remained forever beyond his grasp. The free, wireless power that would liberate humanity from the tyranny of distance and scarcity. He died alone in a New York hotel room, his greatest dreams unrealized, his fortune squandered, his name fading from public memory. It seemed a failure, a cautionary tale about genius unmoored from practical reality. But time has revealed a different truth. We live in Tesla's world now. Every time we turn on a light, start an electric motor, send a wireless message, we are using technologies that descend directly from his innovations. The impossible AC motor that Professor Puschel ridiculed powers almost every industrial machine on the planet. The wireless transmission that seemed like fantasy has become so ubiquitous we cannot imagine life without it. The global communication network Tesla described in 1900 exists today, connecting billions of people in exactly the way he envisioned, if not by exactly the means he proposed. Tesla saw the future. He saw it with such clarity that he spent his entire life trying to build it, to bring it into physical reality, to gift it to a humanity that was not yet ready to receive it. The tragedy is that he died before the future arrived. The triumph is that it arrived anyway, following the path he illuminated. Speaking the electrical language he invented, fulfilling the vision he had glimpsed in a Budapest park. As the sun set and the light failed, and a solution appeared perfect and complete in his mind's eye. In every humming motor, in every wireless signal crossing the sky, in every electric light pushing back the darkness, Tesla's ghost still dances. The man died in 1943, but his vision lives forever, embodied in the civilization he helped create, vindicated by the future he saw before anyone else could imagine it. Nikola Tesla was born in lightning and lived in light. He promised to illuminate the world, and he kept that promise. The light he gave us still shines, will always shine, a testament to the power of vision, the persistence of genius, and the ultimate triumph of truth over time. The man who saw the future has become part of it, not as a person, not even quite as a memory, but as a presence woven into the fabric of modern life, invisible but essential, forgotten but everywhere. The ghost in the machine that powers our world. His story ends where it began, in a flash of light, in a moment of vision, in the eternal present where past and future converge, and a young man walking through a park sees clearly what the world will become, and dedicates everything to making that vision real. The light still burns. The current still flows. The world still turns, powered by the dreams of a man who saw tomorrow. Now let yourself flow with the alternating current. Feel yourself fall deeper and deeper into rest. Your eyes grow heavy and your breathing lighter. Here you feel completely safe. You are warm and tired, so tired. You have walked the halls with Nikola Tesla tonight. You have been there next to him all this time. And now it is time for you to go back. Go back to where you came from, wherever that may be. Now I set your mind free once again. Now you take one step back and another. This is it. Now you sleep.